And he said unto Abram, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance. King James Version, Holy Bible, the book called Genesis, and chapter 15, and verses 13 and 14. And God spake on this wise, that his seed should sojourn in a strange land, and that they should bring them into bondage, and entreat them evil 400 years. And the nation to whom they shall be in bondage will I judge, said God. And after that shall they come out and come forth and serve me in this place, where they will go into bondage and be taken captive. Reference the book called the Acts in the King James Version Holy Bible, and chapter 7 and verses 6 and 7. It is now an historical fact and biblical that the only people that has been taken captive and brought into bondage, strange land, is the so-called African American people today, also known as Yehuda, Judah, of the tribe, the fourth tribe of Israel, of the 12 tribes of Israel, also known as Negro slaves in history. They are the only ones in history that has been brought into bondage. That means that those two prophecies of both the Old and the New Testament is referring to the so-called African American people. Even as it says in the book called Jeremiah, of the same King James Version Holy Bible, in chapter 13 and verse 19, that the cities of the south shall be shut up, and none shall open them. Judah shall be carried away captive, all of it. It shall be wholly carried away captive, and that would be at a time when Judah would be in the strange land that's called the United States of America. However, that prophecy was preserved for the South, a particular state in the United States in the South that is known as Florida. And the place where Judah would be taken captive, along with Hispanics, would be orchestrated and organized by the spiritual pharaoh of the land that's called in spirit Egypt. The spiritual Egypt, according to Revelation chapter 11, verse 8, that's also known as the United States of America today. The spiritual Egypt, and with the spiritual Egypt comes a spiritual pharaoh, also known as the king of Babylon. And he would orchestrate a city to the south of the United States in the state called Florida. And that place would become known as the alligator Alcatraz, where Judah would be taken bondage and brought into captivity and placed in cages.
You know, snakes are fast, but alligators are, but we're going to teach them how to run away from an alligator, okay, if they escape prison.
U.S. President Donald Trump traveled to Florida Tuesday to inspect the site of a controversial new migrant detention center dubbed Alligator Alcatraz. Now, this remote facility is being reconfigured at a cost of $450 million U.S. to hold undocumented immigrants in the middle of the Everglades.
Is the model going forward, Mr. President?
It can be. I mean, you don't always have land so beautiful and so secure. We have a lot of bodyguards and a lot of cops that are in the form of alligators. You don't have to pay them so much. But I wouldn't want to run through the Everglades for long. It will keep people where they're supposed to be. This is a very important thing.
We've got very red states that should be doing this just as much as Florida's doing. That will increase their numbers. And then what happens is you'll have a lot of people that will deport on their own because they don't want to end up in an Alligator, Alcatraz, or some of those other places. So I think this is a model, but we need other states to step up.
The Florida Everglades to open America's newest migrant detention center. It's incredibly built, and you're seeing that yourself. That's why I said let the press join us on our walk so they can see what's happening. It's known as Alligator Alcatraz, which is very appropriate because I looked outside and that's not a place I want to go hiking anytime soon. But very soon this facility will house some of the most menacing migrants, some of the most vicious people on the planet. We're surrounded by miles of treacherous swampland, and the only way out is really deportation. And a lot of these people are self-deporting back to their country.
And thereby will create a trespass against the Lord. A trespass. Now, to prove that Judah or Yehuda are the black in complexion people, skin complexion, according to Jeremiah chapter 14, verse 2, in the King James Version of the Bible, it reads, Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languished. They are black unto the ground, that's from the head to the foot, and the cry of Jerusalem is going up, end quote. Now, it is also an historical fact that the first group of so-called Negro slaves were sold in the United States during the 16th century. In particular, one city in the south of the United States, in Florida, that's known as the oldest city, that's called St. Augustine today. St. Augustine, Florida, where they have a monument of the first so-called Negro slave was sold at a slave auction market in that city. And the year recorded as 1555 during the 16th century. This also means that the so-called spiritual pharaoh of the spiritual Egypt will commit a trespass against the God of the Hebrews, the God of Israel, who is not the Father. The Father is the God of the Hebrews. However, when you look at the printing of these verses, you will find Lord with a capital L and a lowercase O-R-D, followed by God in all caps. And I made mention of this before, that whenever you see the Lord printed that way in the Bible with a capital L, lowercase O-R-D, followed by all caps of God, that represents the Son who is speaking. And on the other hand, when you read Lord in all caps, capital L-O-R-D, all caps, followed by God with a capital G, lowercase o-d, that represents the Father who is speaking. You can check my previous videos and you'll see that I confirmed this before, which is totally, totally true. Now, thus saith the Lord, that's all caps, and that is my arm. When you read in the Bible, and when you see in the Bible, Lord, from left to right, with the letters L-O-R-D in all caps, the theologians of the world who transliterate these from England want you to know that they was referring to the Father of the two. That's both, the Father. So that's two. You must get that in your mind, clear in your mind before I read on. You must know that there's two. There's the Father and the Son. There's a Father and a Son in the Bible. The Father is known in all caps, L-O-R-D. And sometimes you see the L-O-R-D in all caps, and next to it you see the capital G and lowercase o-d. That's still the Father. There are also times when you're going to look in the Bible and you're going to see capital L, lowercase O-R-D. That's capital L, uppercase L, lowercase O-R-D. That's the Son. And sometimes you may find in the Bible capital L, uppercase L, lowercase O-R-D, and next to that, you'll see God in all caps. That is still the Son. That's how you distinguish the one from the other. The Father's always big. He's bigger because he's greater. He is the greatest. He's God. He created the Son, which is himself. He merely produced a man from his own loins and became his only begotten. Now, with that reminder, let me also introduce to some and remind others that there being two gods, a big God, which is the Father, and the smaller God, which is the Son, or the big Lord, which is the Father, and the lowercase Lord, which is the Son. That means there are two, the Father and the Son. The Father, which art in heaven, and the Son, who's on the planet. And since there are two, also confirmed in Ezekiel chapter 34 and verse 11, that indicates both will search my sheep and seek them out in that verse, then that means that there are two separate types of trespasses, even in the aftermath as past tense. For example, in Leviticus chapter 5 and verse 19, it says, and I quote, "It is a trespass offering. He hath certainly trespassed against the Lord." End quote, and that's all caps in that verse, Lord. And in the same book, in chapter 26 of Leviticus, in verse 40, it says, and I quote, "If they shall confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers with their trespass, which they trespassed against me," Micah, me, Mem Yod, according to Strong's Concordance under H 4310, and that also they have walked contrary unto me, end quote, of verse 40 of Leviticus 26. Now, with that said, let's go back for a moment, back to Leviticus chapter 5 and verse 19, where we made an emphasis of the Father, who did trespass against the Lord, the big Lord, the Father. That trespass is found in original Hebrew, according to the James Strong's Exhaustive Concordance, under H 816, that reveals and releases the Hebrew word known as Asham. Asham. And that Hebrew word, Asham, that was trespass against the Father, it means to offend, be guilty, trespass. To do wrong, offend, trespass, commit an offense, and do injury. To be or become guilty. To be held guilty. To be incriminated, and to suffer punishment, just to name a few. Again, that's under Strong's Concordance, H 816. And that's where you will find that in Leviticus chapter 5 and verse 19. Again, that refers to the Father. However, on the other hand, when we go to Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 40, you find trespass against, and it's again in its past tense, and that trespass is personal. It goes against me. Mem Yod, H 4310, me, Micah. And that trespass that falls under the Strong's Concordance reference H4603. 4603. And it means to act unfaithfully, to act treacherously, transgress, commit a trespass, to act treacherously and unfaithfully against man, against God, against devoted thing, against husband, just to name a few, which is also used figuratively. Again, that's according to Strong's H. 4603. Remember, it begins with mem. Therefore, that is a sure indication that this knowledge and meaning of trespass falls under the power empowered by mem, me, Micah. And now, since that is true and confirmed, then this would also mean that Micah left record in his scrolls that Judah would be going into captivity under the power and the punishment of the great dragon, or the king of Babylon, or Pharaoh. And that would too be confirmed in Micah chapter 1. Micah chapter 1. And in verse 16, the last verse of Micah chapter 1, and that reads, as I quote, "Make thee bald, and poll thee for thy delicate children. Enlarge thy baldness as the eagle." Knowing, of course, that the eagle is now recognized as the American bird, the bird of the government of the United States, the eagle, the bald eagle, that is the national bird. "For they are gone into captivity from thee," thee being me. That means my people, Judah, are not going to captivity from me. End quote, end of verse 16 of Micah chapter 1. So this means that not only did Yehuda, trespass against me, according to Deuteronomy chapter 28, beginning at verse 15 to verse 68, that it was promised that if they did such a thing against me, that they would go into captivity and be brought into a land, remember, as strangers, a land that's not theirs, and treated evil 400 years, brought into bondage. According to verse 68, taken and transported by ships from Egypt. See, Egypt, the spiritual Egypt, the United States of America. Although Judah was taken to all countries of the world, but in particular, the United States of America first landed on Plymouth Rock, Jamestown, Virginia, during the 16th century. In fact, record also shows in the archives that the first family of Yehuda, a mother, husband, father, and 2 children, was sold to a Mexican monarch, a Mexican slave owner. And the year recorded as 1502. On the west coast of the United States, a family of Negro slaves, a mother, father, and 2 children, was sold to a Mexican. And the year recorded as 1502. I challenge you to find that in the archives. In fact, I'll do it for you, and I have. In the meantime, as I was saying, it is now confirmed officially that the king of Babylon has trespassed against me. And because he trespassed against me, he must now bring a trespass offering. And I've already put that trespass curse on him. In fact, in private, during the month of February of 2025, I fulfilled what's now printed in the book called Matthew in chapter 28 and in verse 3, and I'll read that. In fact, I will begin at verse 2 of Matthew chapter 28, verse 2, that says, I quote, "And behold, there was a great earthquake, for the angel of the Lord descended from heaven, and came and rolled back the stone from the door, and sat upon it." And that door is the fifth Hebrew alphabet or character or symbol, should you prefer, known as Hey. That would be the door that was rolled back. Hey. And that's from left to right of the tetragrammaton that you know from right to left as Yod Hey Wav Hey. Yod Hey Wav Hey. But from left to right, it's Hey, Wav, Hey, Yod. And the door is the first Hey from the left of two, one of two. And that's the door that I rolled back today. I rolled back the stone. And I am also symbolized as the rock. Symbolized as the rock of Tyre. That's Tyre. That's also fulfilled today. The mystery of that. Tyre. As it's spelled in the Bible, that gives you the Hebrew word sar. Sar. Spelled with sade. To give you the S sound. Sar. As verse 3 says in Matthew 28, his countenance was like lightning, his remnant white as snow. End quote, end of verse 3. And when I first descended as myself, of course, I was wearing all white at one time, all white. And that would be from the late 1999, when I went to the Bahamas, until as recently as 2023. All white. Verse 4 in Matthew 28 says, I quote, "And for fear of him the keepers did shake, and became as dead men." End quote. And they did. All who saw me became as dead men. They have no idea. They had no idea and have no idea who I am today, or even back in the days. Insomuch until I went back and pulled out Matthew chapter 24 recently, as I found my disciples from over 2,027 years ago, 25, 26, 27 years ago, I found my disciples as I promised them I would return and what it would be like in the last days at the end of the world. And furthermore, what has been deemed in the United States of America as the celebration of the date, the birth date anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., his birth date anniversary, that has been deemed in the United States as January 20th, the Monday this year, January 20th, or the third Monday of January every year. On this particular so-called holiday weekend of Dr. Martin Luther King's birth date anniversary, which also happened to have been the exact date and day of the inauguration of the 47th President of the United States, or Pharaoh of Egypt, the spiritual Egypt, who is now known worldwide as, and I quote, Donald John Trump Sr., end quote. I had a personal and a private meeting with my disciples, my angels, and that is a fulfillment of what had happened with myself, my angels, and myself over 2,026 years ago. That's now recorded, recorded in English in the King James Version Bible's book called Matthew, the first book of the New Testament, in chapter 24 and verse 3. And it reads, as I quote, "And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, all the lives, all the mount, all the lives that mounted, the mount of all lives, the disciples came unto him privately," that's me, me, Mika, according to, again, Strong's H4310, me, privately, saying, "Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world?" Verse 3. Needless to say, verse 4 recorded some of what I replied to them, and that reads, as I quote, in part, "Take heed that no man deceive you." I repeat, take heed that no man deceive you. As in, let us make America great again. Make America great again. Of the same so-called man that was inaugurated on that date, the same date and day that I came to them privately. And that's end quote of Matthew chapter 24, verses 3 and 4. But that is the same date and day that I came to them privately, especially after we saw him signing all of these new laws, so-called laws, or commandments of his own, from his thesis, his wish, his will, to make America great again. And as he was signing all of these bills, all of these laws that he wanted to be inducted into the de facto government, I told my disciples, as he signed with his right hand all of those ink pens that he was using, all of those ink pens he was using, I told my disciples privately that I'm going to put a curse on his right hand. I'm going to curse his right hand because of what he is doing, his evil and wicked ways. And keep in mind, however, that on that same date and day, as he was so-called sworn in to become the 47th Pharaoh, or King of Babylon, of the United States, of Babylon, of hell, if you reflect back to that date, he did not place his right hand, or his left hand rather, on the Bible, as he was instructed to by the Chief Justice of the United States. He merely held up his right hand, and he hardly held up his right hand. But I want you to keep in mind that he did not place his left hand on the Bible to swear, according to the word of the Bible, as he should have, according to the protocol and swearing in a United States president. That means for 45 presidents before him, they all placed their hand on the left hand on the Bible. In fact, his first term, he did place his left hand on a red Bible that was given to him by his mother at 9 years old. She gave him a red Bible at 9 years old, and he placed his hand on that Bible during his first inauguration to become the 45th President of the United States. So, what was the mystery or the difference between then, during that inauguration, and this inauguration of 2025? Well, the answer to that question is hidden and found in Ezekiel chapter 17. See, he trespassed against me, just as Judah trespassed against me, and all of the tribes of Israel trespassed against me. And according to Ezekiel of the King James Version Bible, chapter 17, begin at verse 11. Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, Micah, Mem Yod, me. Again, according to Strong's Concordance, reference H 4310. I repeat, moreover, the word of the Lord, Yod Ma'ab, came unto me, Micah, saying, verse 12, say now to the rebellious house, and the rebellious house also go to the rebellious White House of Washington District of Columbia, this nation's capital, and all of its administration. Know ye not what these things mean of him signing of these bills and with these ink pens with his right hand? Know ye not what these things mean? So now Ma'ab is telling me to tell you, as it reads, go on, as it reads, tell them, and I'm telling you now, again on this Friday, recorded as Friday, July 18th, 2025. It's like just before 7 months later, after 7 months from July 20th to January 20th. It's the 7th month. 2 days from July 20th. I'm telling you now, as my Ab is telling me to tell you from verse 11 of Ezekiel chapter 17. Tell them in verse 12. Behold, the king of Babylon is come to Jerusalem, the United States, even this New Jerusalem here in Miami of Florida. The king of Babylon has come to Jerusalem as he did back then. He's here today in the United States. Right in the middle of Jerusalem is the USA. The USA. And after USA is LEM. Tell them, Lum. Tell them. And hath taken the king thereof. Who's the king of Jerusalem? You listen to the voice of the king of Jerusalem. Not Benjamin Netanyahu. Not the prime minister of Israel. The king of Jerusalem is also the king of Israel. And he took the princes thereof and led them with him to Babylon. Remember, during the 16th century, during slavery. That means the soul of the king of Jerusalem, the king of Israel, was among them way back in the 16th century. It came to Babylon, the baby land. That Babylon is an allegory for baby land. The Babylon baby land, the baby land would be the youngest nation on the planet to become a nation with United States on July 4th, 1776, the youngest and baby nation on the planet to become a full-grown de facto government. First, 48 states can join together. They adopted Alaska and Hawaii to become 50. Nevertheless, the king of Babylon has come to Jerusalem, had taken the king thereof and the princes thereof, and led them with him to Babylon. And verse 13, Ezekiel 17, and hath taken of the king's seed. See? Who's the king's seed? Well, the king's seed, in order to have the king's seed, the king must be there to have his seed, the sperm. His sperm, the king's seed. And made a covenant with him. And hath taken an oath of him. He hath also taken the mighty of the land. That's Judah, the chosen tribe of the 12 to become the rulers. Judah, the mighty of the land. Verse 14, that the kingdom might be base, that it might not lift itself up, but that by keeping of his covenant, it might stand. Why might stand? Well, because something happened during January 20th, 2025, for today, of this modern Egypt, the spiritual Egypt today, this modern Babylon today. Verse 15 authenticates that, confirms it. But he rebelled. See, he rebelled against him in sending his ambassadors into Egypt, that they might give him horses and much people. Well, shall he prosper? Shall he escape that doeth such things? Or shall he break the covenant and be delivered? Well, as I live, in verse 16, as I live, saith the Lord God, and there it is again. See, that's the Son speaking. Lord, with capital L, lowercase O-R-D, followed by God in all caps, represents the Son speaking. Surely in the place where the King dwelleth that made him king, whose oath he despised by not placing his left hand on the Bible, and whose covenant he brake, even with him in the midst of Babylon in Washington, District of Columbia, the nation's capital, Washington, District of Columbia, he shall die. Verse 17, neither shall Pharaoh with his mighty army and great company of his administration make for him in the war of Ukraine and Russia and Lebanon and Israel. What? By casting up mounts and building forts in the south, in Florida, today known as Alligator Alcatraz, building forts to cut off many persons from their families, many persons. Seeing he despised the oath during his inauguration by not placing his hand on the Bible, his left hand on the Bible, by breaking the covenant, when, lo, he had given his hand, his right hand, and had done all these things by signing these bills, he shall not escape his hand, his right hand, the one he held up toward heaven, the one he exposed in the air for the plague to attack it, as I put the curse on it that very same day. I have witnesses here who would testify to you that I said that in private, and they're going to testify. In fact, listen to these testimonies of mine angels who were here with me that day, and they do not lie. My angels are celestial angels. They do not lie. Listen, take a listen.
Shalom Aleichem, beloved family. First and foremost, giving all glory, honor, and praises to Yod, and to his son, Mem Yod. That's Mem Yod, Kaf Yod Wave, Mika, Michael, all the same soul. And when that soul speaks, the words that he speak, they surely come to pass. And his word shall not return unto him void, but shall accomplish his purpose according to righteousness and truth. And speaking in a particular subject of a particular individual, that is Donald Trump, in 2025 of January, the Christ, Mem Yod, spoke of a plague that hit Donald Trump, starting with his hand. And now that plague is spread throughout his whole body. And I bear witness that I was there when the Christ spoke concerning this plague and said that it was spread throughout his body, starting with the hand. And now, look, in July of 2025, Donald Trump is on his way out. Blessed be the true and the living God, Yod, and his Christ, Mem Yod. Shalom Aleichem.
Glory unto Yod, the God of the Hebrews, and to his son, Mem Yod Kaf Yud Hey Wab Hey. I'm Daniel, here in Miami of Florida, as I bring to you a revelation that on January 20th, 2025, as Donald Trump sat in his office writing these decrees of order, executive order, Mem Yod Kaf Yud Hey Wab Hey had gathered us privately, his disciples, and shared with us that he was going to curse Donald Trump's right hand, with a skin disease. And as we have noticed the last 3 or 4 days, the news media has been reporting that Donald Trump has a skin disorder, a skin disease that was brought on by the curse that Mem Yod Kaf Yud Hey Wav Hey put on his hand. Not only did he say it was going to happen, he made it happen.
Shalom, glory Yod. Praises to his son, Mem Yod. My name is Shariah. I bear witness to Mem Yod telling his disciples, angels in privacy, that Donald Trump was going to be cursed with a skin disease on his hand, and that was on January the 20th, 2025. And when my Lord says something, he says it to make it happen, and it happened. And they advertised it for the whole world to see on July the 17th, 2025.
Shalom Alaikum. My name is Hezabah Yasa, and I bear witness that on January 2025, January 20th, that as Donald Trump was seen on live TV signing over executive orders, it was said by the Christ, God himself in the flesh, who is known today as Mika, that he is going to curse Trump right hand. He's going to look at his hand, that he's going to curse his hands, and the curse is going to be unnoticeable. It's going to be so noticeable that it can't go unnoticed. Okay, he's going to plague his hands, and today, July 2025, Trump has been diagnosed with a chronic vein disease, okay, that's in his hand, and that he is now covering it up with makeup. The Christ himself, I bear witness that the Christ is alive today, and everything that he says happens, and it comes to pass. Praise Yod and Shalom Alaikum.
Shalom Alaikum. I'm Amaya Israel, and I'd like to tell you that on January 20th, 2025, Mika Israel told us that he was going to send a plague to Donald Trump, aka the Great Dragon, and it was going to appear on his right hand. Amazing.
Shalom Alaikum. I would like to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yod and his son, Mem Yod. I have a testimony today that I would like to share in regards to, first and foremost, the inauguration back in 2017, when Trump was sworn into presidency. When he was sworn into presidency, he had his hand on the Bible when he was sworn in. And this time around in 2025, he didn't have his hand on the Bible and stated that according to the law, it was not a requirement to sworn in with your hand on the Bible. So this is a picture of the very first inauguration when he was sworn into presidency as the 45th president of the United States back in 2017. This is a picture of the second inauguration when he was sworn into presidency as the 47th president of the United States. I am here to testify that back in January, Christ, who is here today, Mem Yod, prophesied that he would put a curse on Donald Trump's hand. If you Google search Donald Trump's hand, on a simple Google search, you will see different images of the abnormalities that everyone is viewing as far as what is going on with his health. I'm here to testify that Christ is here today, and he prophesied that he would put a curse on his hand, and it came to pass.
I am Tanasaraya. I bear witness that the Christ is here in Miami, Florida. I also bear witness on January 20th, Christ prophesizing in a private meeting that he was going to curse Hillel with a skin disease, better known as Donald Trump. Praise Yod and glory to his son, Christ.
Shalom Aleichem. All praises be to the true and living God, Yod, who is the God of the Hebrews, and his only begotten, the true and living Christ, Mem Yod, who goes by the government name of Mika Israel, who is the Christ of the Hebrews, the Messiah, also the King of Israel. My name is Ben Shaya, and I just want to testify and bear witness to the private prophecy that was given on January 20th of this year, 2025, according to the Gregorian calendar, that the Christ, Mem Yod, prophesied that he would place a plague on this current president, your ruler, known as Donald Trump, who is biblically known as Lucifer, Hillel. So the Christ of the Hebrews prophesied that he would place a plague on his right arm, specifically his right hand, of a skin disease that would manifest. And I bear witness as recent as the 17th that skin disease has now been public on Donald Trump, which he's suffering that right now today. Just to mention, along with that testimony and a few others, he did mention that Trump will eventually die. Praise Yod. Glory to his only begotten son, the Christ of Yod, Mem Yod. Shalom.
Shalom Aleichem. I am Dorothy here in Miami, Florida, of the Celestial Lodge, the Kingdom of Shalom. I would like to give thanks, honor, and glory to Yod and his Christ, Mem Yod. Today, I would like to tell you of a prophecy that was prophesied 2025 this year concerning Donald Trump, president of the Corporation of the United States, concerning the skin of his hand. This prophecy came about during the time he was signing executive orders under Christ did prophesy that Donald Trump would be cursed upon his hands. As of today, July the 18th, Friday, this morning, there were many reports on the web concerning a diagnosis that he had gotten of CVI, which is chronic vein insufficiency. And one of the symptoms of this condition is, in fact, skin discoloration. So today I would like to let you all know that it was part of a plague. It is a plague that the Christ himself did speak to us here to let us know that he would be plaguing Donald J. Trump, president of the Corporation of the United States, with a plague upon his hand. I bear witness to this.
In the meantime, in verse 18, Ezekiel chapter 70, verse 18, seeing he despised the oath by breaking the covenant, when, lo, he had given his hand, and had done all these things, he shall not escape. Verse 19, therefore, thus said the Lord God, that's the Son again, the same one, the same voice you hear speaking now. See, as I live, surely mine oath that he hath despised, and my covenant that he hath broken, even it will recompense upon his own head. His own head. Why? Well, verse 20. And I will spread my net upon him, my net of plagues and diseases, the same net of Micah chapter 7 and verse 2 and verse 3. The same net that I placed in prophecy. shall be taken in my snare, and I will bring him to Babylon, the baby lamb where he is today, and will plead with him to come and see me in Miami. Come to Miami and meet with me in Miami, Florida, which is only a few miles from Mar-a-Lago and West Palm Beach, where your estate is. It's only a few miles. Come to see me. I'm pleading with him to come to see me here for his trespass, that he has trespassed against me. Or else I will continue to put a curse on your body, your entire body. And all his fugitives with all his bands shall fall by the sword, all of those angels with you of Hallel. And they that remain shall be scattered toward all winds. The administration will be broken up. And ye shall know that I, my one God, my Ab, the Lord, has spoken it through this body, this vessel that you see, that you think you know. You don't know me. This hand of their enemies is his right hand. This hand of their enemy, one in particular, or enemies, which is also his administration, that would be the Pharaoh's administration of this government today. And for the record, today's date, according to their calendar, is July 18th, or the 11th day of the 5th month, 6028 of our calendar solar. As I also remind you that it is virtually impossible for one whirlwind to form over North Florida.
The one thing that has changed is the future path of the storm. Remember, yesterday we were talking about the possibility of some development in the Northeast Gulf. That is looking less and less likely. Low pressure may develop over Jacksonville, northern portions of our viewing area, then lift northeastward along the southeast coast. Waters are warm here. Remember, we have that Gulf Stream current here with waters in the mid-80s, so we'll be watching that. So as that low drops to the south, again, this is looking less and less likely. The track may be taking a little bit of a curve across north central Florida.
Much less within 30 days, a second one forms over North Florida and goes right to the city where I told it would go.
You see no color over the northern Gulf. That means there's no wind shear. This is going to move into a pocket of low wind shear, also giving it the opportunity to try to come together. But what will be working against this is time and the fact that it'll stay fairly close to land. This is going to drift basically due west and then move on shore over Louisiana in all likelihood as we get into the later part of the week, the Thursday, Friday time frame.
That I'm focused on right now, that would be New Orleans, Louisiana. But can you imagine a third whirlwind forming in the exact same area in North Florida as the first two? I prophesy that today. I'm going to make it happen. A third whirlwind. Never before in the history of this world has it happened. One, forget it. Two, unheard of. But three, ridiculous. Well, let's see. Is it me or not? You be the judge as I continue to judge America with my floods of waters, my flood waters. And not only Texas, New York, not only New Jersey and North, the Carolinas and Virginia, Maryland, not only in the Dakotas, not only in the California, but all over this country, not only in this country, but all over this planet, I'm going to cause floodwaters. I bring up plagues as often as I will, according to Revelation chapter 11, verse 6, and I am not done. I am just getting started. This is just the beginning of sorrow. This is just the beginning of sorrows, according to what I left in Matthew chapter 24, and it's now printed, read in English. This is just the beginning. But you trespassed against me in my face, and I don't like that very much at all. But remember, In Ezekiel chapter 39 and verse 23, it mentioned that I gave them into the hand of their enemies, and that hand would be the right hand. And as I came to my disciples privately, I told them I was going to place a plague on the right hand of Donald Trump. A plague, like a bacteria plague. I would place on his hand a parasite that cannot be cured. I told them that in private. So where is it in the Word? Well, let me show you. Go to Leviticus for a moment. In Leviticus chapter 14, beginning at verse 1 of the King James Version Holy Bible, as I quote and remind this planet today, as the Lord spake back then unto Moshe, saying, This shall be the law of leper in the day of his cleansing. And leper is a white complexion skin. Leper is a white skin complexion, or pink, should you prefer. Every soul, every body on this planet at one time was black or dark in skin complexion. When you see a light or pink skin complexion, even white, that is called leper or leprosy. It's a curse. And in the day of his cleansing, he shall be brought unto the priest. I am the priest. I am the only priest, Melchizedek. I'm also known in the Bible as Melchizedek. No mother, no father, no beginning of days, no end of life. The same yesterday, today, and forever, according to Hebrews chapter 13, verse 8. I am he. And the priest shall go forth, in verse 3 of Leviticus chapter 14, out of the camp. And the priest shall look, and behold, if the plague of leprosy be healed in the leper, then shall the priest command to take for him, that is, to be cleansed, 2 birds alive and clean. Who? The bald eagle and the hawk. And cedar wood and scarlet and hyssop. And the priest shall command that one of the birds be killed in an earthen vessel over running water. As for the living bird, he shall take it, the hawk, and the cedar wood, the scarlet, and the hyssop, and shall dip them and the living bird in the blood of the bird that was killed over the running water, and that would be symbolic of an assassin, a potential assassin, the hawk going after the bald eagle. And he shall sprinkle upon him that is to be cleansed from the leprosy 7 times, during campaigning 7 times, and shall pronounce him clean, and shall let the living bird loose into the open field. And he that is to be cleansed shall wash his clothes, and shave off all his hair, and wear a toupee, and wash himself in water, that he may be clean. And after that he shall come into the camp, and shall tarry abroad out of his tent 7 days in the White House. Come into the camp, into the White House. Come into Mar-a-Lago 7 days in Florida, West Palm Beach County. 7 days. But it shall be on the 7th day that he shall shave all his hair off his head and his beard, and his eyebrows. Even all his hair he shall shave off, as he did. He looks nothing like he did before, over 3,000 years ago. And he shall wash his clothes. Also he shall wash his flesh in water. He shall be clean. And on the 8th day, the 8th month, the 8th campaign, he shall take 2 he-lambs without blemish of his secret service, and 1 ewe lamb of the first year without blemish, the new vice president, and 3/10 deals of fine flour for a meat offering, mingled with oil, and 1 log of oil during the campaign. And the priest that maketh him clean shall present the man that is to be made clean. And those things before the Lord at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, the first hay from the left. And the priest shall take 1 he-lamb of his ministration and offer him for a trespass offering during his campaign, and the log of oil, and wave them for a wave offering before the Lord from the people, from the podium. Wave them, wave for a wave offering with the hand, wave. Even fists balled up, wave. Let's make America great again, wave. And verse 13, and he shall slay the lamb in the place where he shall kill the sin offering and the burnt offering. And he slayed the lamb. He refused to come and speak to the lamb in the holy place. For as the sin offering is the priest's, so is the trespass offering. It is most holy. But he refused to come and see me. He refuses. And the priest, in verse 14, and the priest shall take some of the blood of the trespass offering, as he refused to come and see me even during the first term, as number 45, Pharaoh. And the priest shall put it upon the tip of the right ear of him that is to be cleansed, as an assassination attempt, as he will be shot on the right ear, blood offering on the right ear, and upon the thumb of his hand, his right hand, and upon the great toe of his right foot, a disease, a plague that I placed upon him on his right hand. And the priest shall take some of the log of oil and pour it up unto the palm of his own left hand. And the priest shall dip his right finger in the oil that is in his left hand, and shall sprinkle of the oil with his finger 7 times before the Lord, as I am doing, and I have done it. And of the rest of the oil that is in his hand shall the priest put upon the tip of the right ear of him that is to be cleansed, and upon the thumb of his right hand, and upon the great toe of his right foot, and upon the blood of the trespass offering. And verse 18, finally, and the remnant of the oil that is in the priest's hand he shall pour upon the head of him that is to be cleansed. And the priest shall make an atonement for him before the Lord, and I will not. He will remain unclean until he come and see me and meet with me personally and make amends with me, as I have the power to cleanse him. But I refuse until he meet with me, and let mine people go. And that's all I have to say.